CrossFit is not helping you become a better fighter, and here's why. Hey everyone, James here from Sweet Science of Fighting, and if you learn anything new or find this video helpful, please like this video and subscribe to my channel. It's going to help my channel grow. You're going to bless the algorithm gods for me. Before I dive into the exact reasons why CrossFit is not going to make you a better fighter, first we need to define CrossFit training. Now, I'm not talking about CrossFitters training for the CrossFit Games. They take a very different approach and a very professional approach to their CrossFit training. I'm talking about fighters going to their CrossFit gym or performing CrossFit style workouts or WODs. Now, a WOD would simply be, or a typical CrossFit class might be going to class, performing a warm-up, maybe doing a strength portion of the class, and then performing some kind of conditioning circuit. And that's what I would consider CrossFit training and what I'll be referring to in this video. I have 8 reasons why CrossFit is not going to help you become a better fighter. The first reason is CrossFit training doesn't target specific energy systems that you need for MMA or combat sports performance. In fact, you get almost like a smorgasbord effect where you're essentially dabbling in all the different energy systems at once. Now, you're going to get that within your fight training anyway. So when you're outside of your fight training, you need to target certain adaptations that you want to carry over into your combat sports fight performance or even your training. Now, within a CrossFit style workout, you might start with pure maximal strength or power stuff within the WODs. You're looking at the alactic aspect. Then you're essentially redlining the rest of the workout, trying to finish as many random exercises as you can in the shortest period of time. Now, what you're doing is you're creating these mixed signals for the body. And you're not going to maximize or optimize the development of any one energy system. You're going to sit there and you're going to be covered. You're basically going to increase blood lactate levels to a very high level every session, now creating more fatigue and not developing any of that aerobic energy ability. The second reason tacks onto this, and that is you don't develop maximal outputs within CrossFit training. Now, you might in a class work up, for example, to a heavy 3 rep max or 1 rep max at the beginning of class and whatever lift, maybe. But overall, you're going to do that within a certain time period. You might only have 10 minutes to do it. Whereas if you're really trying to develop maximal strength or maximal power, maximal speed, you would rest 3 to 4 plus minutes between your sets. If you only have a 10 minute time limit, then you cannot take that adequate rest to work up to these maximum outputs. Within the class as well, even if you did work on those maximum outputs, you're going to blunt that response anyway, because afterwards you're going to send another signal to the body, which is redlining those random circuits. The third reason is CrossFit doesn't touch on that low intensity aerobic work. Now, I've touched on this quite a bit in some of my previous videos and on my blog on sweetscienceoffighting.com about how important aerobic energy system work is in terms of your fight performance. Now, many people will say, MMA or boxing or whichever combat sport you're in, it's only 3 or 5 minute rounds. And so that means that it's just high intensity and everything is geared towards that anaerobic lactic energy system. However, when you look at the research and you look at the research behind repeated power ability as well, the aerobic energy system is your foundation. The aerobic energy system allows you to maintain a certain level of effort throughout the fight. It allows you to recover between efforts, allows you to recover between rounds, and allows you to recover between fights much faster than if you were highly anaerobic dominant. So it's important that you have that foundation, as it allows you to essentially clear that blood lactate. While blood lactate is not the cause or proponent of fatigue, but other factors correlate with blood lactate. So that means when blood lactate goes up, these other parameters also go up, which contribute to fatigue. Now, obviously having a well-developed aerobic energy system, you're not going to have so much of that issue. CrossFit doesn't really touch that. CrossFit, you're going essentially as hard as you can for whatever time frame that is, or in as short a time as possible. And that means we're getting skyrocketed heart rates, and these skyrocketed heart rates are taking us out of that aerobic or anaerobic, or above that anaerobic threshold. And then we're touching more of that anaerobic lactic energy system work. The fourth reason is that WOD style training doesn't improve maximal strength. Now, I've talked about how maximal strength may have some detrimental impacts on speed. However, maximal strength has positive adaptations that we also need that lay a foundation for our MMA or fight performance. Specifically, strength generally underpins most other qualities, where the stronger you are, the greater potential you have to display that strength in other activities. While I say to a certain extent, I mean, if you're looking at a very short time frame, improving your maximal strength more may not translate to that short time frame, because that is all about how quickly you can produce that force. But back to the maximal strength within CrossFit. Within CrossFit, you're looking at performing as much work as possible, generally in the smallest or shortest time possible, usually within a WOD style workout. Maximal strength requires heavy lifting, generally above 80-85% of your 1RM, in the rep range of say 1 to 5, but you're going to have full recovery between sets. So that means having 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes rest between your sets of whatever movements you're performing. The fifth reason is that CrossFit doesn't maximize high velocity strength training. Now you can say that CrossFit, hey, you have box jumps, you have various jumps, you do Olympic lifts as well. However, you're not doing these in set and rep parameters or even with rest interval parameters that are going to maximize power development. Now, we know that high velocity strength training essentially provides opposing adaptations to maximal strength, so it's important that we balance these two. But when we perform Olympic lifts for 10 plus reps or we're doing 20 plus box jumps mixed with burpees and things like that, we're not developing any high velocity strength, we're just raising our heart rate and doing things sub-maximally. And if you want to develop maximal power output and maximal speed, you need to train maximal power and maximal speed. If you're doing sub-maximal jumps and sub-maximal speed movements, you're not going to get faster or more powerful. Our sixth reason is exercises are not specific to MMA or the combat sport. Now that doesn't mean that everything you do in the gym or everything you do outside of your technical training needs to be specific to the sport or mimic the sport. When we're doing our strength training or general strength conditioning, the work we do, maybe the general prep, might not directly be specific to the sport, but it might impact something in between. So for example, if I'm going to squat, I'm going to develop general leg strength and maybe power that's going to transfer to an exercise that's maybe more specific to MMA or to your combat sport. But with CrossFit, you're essentially not even touching that general end. So it means whatever you're doing is even before that. So even with your general preparation needs to lead into your more specific stuff. It needs to have value to what you do down the line closer to your more specific training. Where CrossFit WOD style training, it doesn't give you further benefits towards your specific training. It doesn't even improve your general exercise performance. And that's where the problem lies when you start performing a lot of CrossFit style training to supplement your MMA or your combat sports performance. The seventh reason is that CrossFit training is not periodized. Now, when you go to a CrossFit gym where you're just doing random CrossFit WODs, you're essentially just picking off a list and just doing whatever. There's no rhyme or reason behind how much you're doing, how long, or any of the movements you're doing. Now, when you're looking at training for example, an upcoming MMA fight or combat sports tournament, you have certain phases of training that you want to run through to make sure that you peak for that fight or for your competition. And in order to do that, you need to have structure in place. You can't just throw in random workouts within that don't target the adaptations that you're after within that phase. So for example, you're close to a fight. If you're close to a fight, say 4 weeks out, you're looking at potentially just refining a lot of your skills, you're probably doing a little more sparring, and you're probably really touching on that high velocity strength, that power and that velocity side. If you throw CrossFit style WOD training in there, you're essentially taking away from your strength power side, or that speed and power side, and at the same time you're adding more fatigue on top of what you're already doing in sparring, so you're getting a similar physiological outcome without the technical skill. So it's important that you kind of marry together within your plan, your periodization scheme, targeting those specific abilities. The eighth and final reason, which I've touched on throughout this whole video, is that CrossFit style training just causes too much fatigue. Now, if you're going to go do strength training in the gym to supplement your MMA or combat performance, it needs to be done in a way where it's going to be a benefit to your combat sports training. And that means that whatever you do in the gym should transfer, and it shouldn't impact your skills training to a great degree. If you go into the gym and you're performing crazy circuits of cleans and snatches and box jumps and absolutely leaving yourself crawling on the floor, when you go to do your skills training later that day or the next day, that fatigue is going to carry over. If you're doing these CrossFit style WODs more than once a week, then that fatigue is going to carry over to multiple days and eventually multiple weeks. So you need to have a plan in place where the strength training that you do in the gym is going to complement what you do with your martial arts training. If you're not sure which direction to take your conditioning, check the link in the description. I've got my free ebook in there that's going to take you through some 6 tips for crazy cardio, specifically within MMA. And I've got some other freebies down there too. I've also got some programs specifically for MMA, grappling, and striking, which you can check out in the description. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this video.